You said it was much later that you went to the National Assembly.
11 a.m. cannot be much later.
What time? Well, I told you that this story broke at about, just a moment.
Yes.
I told you that this story broke at about 7 a.m. In fact, we were on the program when the story broke.
Yes.
We had members of a member of the APC here.
Right.
We had a member of the PDP here,
right.
and we're posing the questions to them.
Yes.
It was, in fact, one of the questions I posed to the PDP person was that, to Mr. Ologbondu, if I remember very clearly, was that isn't it too early in the day for us to jump to conclusions?
Yes.
At about 8:20 or thereabout was when we eventually got word that members of the National Assembly had been allowed into the National Assembly by the DSS. After blocking them for close to 40 minutes, if not more. May I land, please?
Opens.
Because, let me finish.
Yeah.
May I land? It is very unusual that the DSS would be on in front of the National Assembly.
It's just not unusual for members to be there at 6 a.m.
Let me land, Senator, if I may. Now, I'm giving you the timeline, and I think it's very important to state this timeline. It's extremely important to have them.
Very well.
At about 8:20 a.m., these members were allowed in. We also asked Mr. Ologbondu on the program about 8:20 a.m.
But they said they were not allowed by 6 a.m.
Just a moment.
We are conversing.
It's very important.
Yeah.
You know, we're not having an argument. We're just trying to state the timeline to educate our viewers.
I'm also pointing out some incongruities to you.
Let me land. Right. So this program starts at 7 a.m. I'm not here by 6 a.m. I would not know about that. Okay. Our correspondent was at the National Assembly at about 7 a.m. yesterday, and she was the one who gave us that story. No, they started broadcasting that at 6 a.m. The blockade. I want to tell you that. Definitely.
You know, the story was all over by 6 a.m.
Just a moment. Definitely not on our station, because we don't have that.
What I'm saying.
No. Sorry. No. Let me land. I do not know about that. I cannot say what I do not know.
Right.
We do not have that information.
Yes.
The information we have broke to us at some minutes past 7 a.m. yesterday. By that time, we already had a member of the APC and a member of the PDP here. And we were posing these questions to them as, you know, information was coming in.
Right.
At about 8:20 or thereabout, members of the National Assembly, the PDP lawmakers who were there, were let into the National Assembly. But members of staff were still prevented. Journalists were also prevented from entering. So it was very difficult for us to know what was going in. Okay. It was much later, at about 10 or thereabout, was when members of the press corps could eventually go into the National Assembly. Yes. That was when we could see what was happening. But before that time, members of the PDP themselves who were inside the chambers were reporting, because they have their phones, were saying, we're here, we cannot get access into the chambers, we cannot get access into our offices. It was still locked. So when you went to the National Assembly yesterday, you said you went at about 11, which was about the time. Did you also still see a crowd in front of the National Assembly?
Of course.
As at that time?
Of course.
What did you find?
Yeah, we saw people there, but we were wondering again, look, if they are alleging, as they alleged, and they were clear. I mean, I saw Ben Bruce, you know, in a video on social media, alleging right in front of that place at 6 a.m., saying that members of APC slept overnight in the chambers, you know, attempting to impeach. Well, that's misinformation.
Is that not misinformation? Nobody. This is very important to understand. Right. Nobody is suggesting that every person has said in this matter is true. Nobody has said so.
What should be your concern is that as the acting president done what is right
Senator
in the
Ojudu,
circumstance or not?
Senator Ojudu, it is not our job to take everything you say hook, line, and sinker. It is our job to question you and to get to the bottom of what actually happened.
I'm not facing an inquisition.
So what I'm facing,
you are interviewing me.
That is exactly what's happening. So this is the issue now. Getting kind of over this argumentative nature of the conversation, let's really look at the issue.
Yes.
We have seen in the past these trends of political conspiracy using security agents. We've all been in this country. We saw it under PDP. We've seen trends of it under APC. This is the reality. So when we're asking you questions about what we have seen over the past 2 weeks in relation to what we saw yesterday, it's not a case for Saraki. It is a pursuit of the truth.
Let me say this. If that has been your observation, the use and abuse of security agencies, with the action taken yesterday by the acting president, now that will stop. So get that clear. Nobody is going to tolerate any of that any longer. Let them go and look for other scripts to write. That will no longer happen.
Which is very commendable,
Right.
distinguished.
Thank you very much.
But,
That's what we expect from you.
Just a moment.
Yeah.
It is not in our place to commend. Sorry to interrupt you. It is not in our place to commend. It is commendable.
Who is trying to rubbish our system?
I think it's important to restate again that we are not making the case for Senator Saraki.
Okay.
I think he has enough spokespersons to make his own case.
I'm reassured by that.
But let me also take you up on what the implication of this might mean.
Right.
When the acting president says, I was not aware, I was not kept in the loop.
Yes.
There are so many other, this is the first time we're seeing that the acting president will say, or we will hear from the presidency, that they will say, we're not aware of a particular matter and take decisive action on it.
Very well.
Which is very, is very interesting because we have heard in the past, I think it was in the case of Benue, when we heard the statement, we saw the statement issued by the special advisor on media, when we heard that the police was actually given cover to 8 lawmakers to try and impeach the governor of the state. You heard that. Now, some people would have wondered, why didn't the president take action in that regard, especially in the area of the security agencies?
Let me assure you, henceforth, that will no longer be tolerated. Any action that will rubbish our country, rubbish our democracy, present us as hooligans, will no longer be tolerated.
Well, that goes to my original question when I asked you. The first
so we don't need to argue about that.
The first question I asked you was about
whether on the part of the executive or the legislative, whatever it is that will make us look bad to the rest of the world and to the citizens of Nigeria shall no longer be tolerated.
Senator, that goes back to my first question when I asked you whether or not the acting president had advised the president on vacation.
Because
the reason why that's important is because we have seen so many kinds of abuses of power, and we have not seen any consequence for most of them.
Okay.
So in view of that, when you say this is the end because the acting president has done that, he's only going to be acting for how many more days?
No.
So are we going to go back to what we've seen? Is the question I'm asking you.
The presidency is one. This kind of division you guys are trying to look at does not exist. It doesn't exist.
I gave you the example of the NHIS executive secretary where he was reversed. I showed you that.
Let's move away from that. I've said now to you that will no longer repeat itself.
Well, you have also heard attempts by, this is not our own story. This is a story also given by Mr. Garba Shehu, who was on this program. I think he was given it in support of something that there were some attempts when the president was away on leave, on sick leave, that there were some attempts by some people to take files to the president. You heard that particular story for the president to treat, and they were asked to bring them back here so that he left an acting president.
Who asked them to bring it back?
The president asked them to bring it back here. But that is not to say that there have not been attempts by people within the presidency to try and subvert the authority of the acting president. Are you going to deny that?
Well, you are telling me now that there are some people who try to subvert the president or whatever activity.
The acting president.
Yes, you have your facts, which should not be available to me.
You're not going to corroborate that story?
Well, I don't have the
Because when you say that the DSS DG did not inform the acting president...
Yes, on this particular occasion.
Doesn't it also corroborate that particular story?
On this particular occasion that I know about, I don't speculate on matters like this. And I don't want to conjecture. No, I wouldn't. But this one I know about, that exactly was what happened.
It is a fine place to leave it. We have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily.
I appreciate it.
Senator Babafemi Ojodu is a special advisor to the president on political matters.
Yes.
It's also very important to state that we also expected Senator Gershom Bassi.